I would like to introduce, let's see if I can find, there we go. Our speaker, Brian Iverson, and Brian is a master gardener here in California. And so Brian's been a master gardener for a number of years. Glad to have him. Brian comes with good credentials. He works as the head maintenance person that oversees a golf course. And when I first come to Brian, I thought, this guy's got to know about moles, and he does. So with that, Brian, thank you so much for coming in. I'm going to turn it over. So
alrighty,
there you go.
Alrighty, good evening. Like Gary said, I run a golf course. I've been there for almost 40 years, and we do have critters come in. There you go. And so, and so anyways, we have critters that come into the golf course, and we try to maintain them before they get into the course too far. And as you guys have lawns, those critters that come in, those critters come in where you're not expecting them. You want to know where they came from. They like to travel. They have their young in March, and as soon as they get big enough, the adults kick them out of their den and say, "Okay, you guys are on your own." So they have to find their own life, and they, like I said, they travel, and sometimes the birds will pick them up and they'll get away and drop on the ground. But they like traveling at night. And at the end of the video, I think Gary and we still have a video of a mole that I caught at the golf course. So you'll probably enjoy that video. But anyways, right here is some of the moles that took place, and you'll notice this here is all crusted over. So this mole has not been here for a while. And one way that you can get rid of a mole is get a nice little dog, and Jack Russell, and he's a digger. He gets right in there and gets those things out of the ground. And this one's taken over here at the Expo Center. This mole just came in and really surprised me how fast a mole can destroy a lawn. And you guys probably all have the same problem. This is just one mole. This is all the damage he's done probably in about 3 weeks' time. And what a destroyer for a little critter. Now here's another one I was talking about. The mole hasn't been there a while. The hills are all crusted over. It's been pretty hard and wet. Well, here we go. Here's the picture it shows. You see a molehill like this, got a hole in it. You know your mole came out. You didn't like it where he came, or when he come in, there's no grubs or anything to feed on. So usually they leave a little hole and come out, and they travel somewhere else. Like again, like I explained earlier, this is hill been in the ground for a while. There's no critter there. This is a nice fresh hill here. We're going to move a little fast tonight. I need to slow down a little bit. So used to asking questions. Anyway, another way of getting rid of a mole, you got to stay with them. If they're working in your yard, you can dig them up. And I've dug quite a few of them up at the golf course. And you've got to know where they are and get to them before they do any more damage. And this is your little critter. There's two different kinds of moles. We got to call it a Townsend mole, and we have a coast mole. Your town mole is black, and they're kind of, actually the coast mole is black. Your town mole is gray. They're a lot bigger. They range between 4 to 6 inches, and I've seen a couple you look bigger than that. But we have two different types of moles here. And I have a pair of gloves on, and they really have sharp teeth, and then really claws in the front you can see. And they, for a little critter, they got over 100 teeth, and they can really chew on your gloves. Sometimes I have a hard time letting one get off my glove. Another way that I kind of played around with it and do some reading on it when I became master gardener is you take 2 5-gallon buckets of water. If you got one just coming in your yard and hasn't been there for a while, doesn't work if you have a whole bunch of hills. This is something where you just have one just coming in your yard. You want to dump the full 10 gallons of water in you're right on top of the hill there. And when you dump all that water in there, he's gonna pop up just like a bobber when you throw it in the water for fishing. And it'll promise that this hole will probably take 4 or 5 buckets. Normally, if you want to play around, this is a good way to just kind of make sure a water hose won't work because you have to dump quite a bit of quantity of water in the hole. I've done this, and it does work. Another one, you can still see that picture. This is a little picture that I took at my place. You can sit in a chair, have a couple of dogs, don't want to dig any moles, take a shotgun, and just the blast alone the shock will kill a mole. And so those ones that live out in the country, I recommend not doing it, but if you're out in the country, but it does work. Here's another one here. This is my son. He's not little anymore. At the golf course down there, I've got several people that mow down there. If I see a golf course, see a mow active down there, I'll call the shop or somebody close by, and I'll have them bring a lawnmower out there, and they'll run over the hill and disturb their nice little tunnels they work so hard on, and they're all ticked off because then they have to turn around and dig their tunnels out. So that's a good opportunity to take your mower, go over the lawn, and see if you actually have one there because they want to clean their tunnels out again, and that's where their feeding ground is. Now here's a little bit. You guys got really nice lawn, grass, yard, and landscaping. This is where I get frustrated, and you guys all get frustrated. Those moles like to be right underneath your sidewalks and just ruin your perfect landscape. And they like to go underneath these little landscape areas. Nothing worse when you have all that nice work and you go in there and just destroy it. And I live out in the country, and this is my grape arbor. Down the far right down there is the far end down there is my fruit tree. The tree is big and huge now, but you'll see molehills down in there. To me, I like moles. I love moles because they're more helpful than harmful. They're down there, not in my yard. They dig tunnels and it helps drainage for my water. And so as long as they're not in my yard, I'm happy. And one way you can get rid of keep moles out of your yard is if you want to get online and help on them is that there is a fencing, but you have to dig 16 inches deep. You have to have 6 inches above ground put around your yard, and that'll stop them from coming in your yard. But it's pretty expensive. You want to go that route. This is just some of the landscaping that I took at my place here. And again, this is where we're at the golf course. There's a pond down there. What the moles love to dig around where it's wet and moist. And that's where all their vegetation is. Luckily, where I work at is all the spoils came from the river when the mountain blew, and so moles don't like sandy soil. There's no really any feeding source there, so they like to stay close to the natural soil, and that's what they feed on. And our greens, we never have any moles on our greens. Really. So there are really a lot of sand, and we pretty much keep the vegetation off the greens, and we don't do any spraying. We get rid of the grubs or vegetation in the ground. Basically, we do a lot of top dressing, and we do a lot of aerifying. So our greens are pretty much all sandy soil. And here's another area right here where the moles like to come in. Okay, now we're going to get back into this legal situation. It is against the law to trap moles in the state of Washington, but they are not going to press any legal actions unless you are out of control, got a bunch of mole traps there, you're not being safe. You need to put a bucket over it, you're fine, as long as you not around the school zone and with a bunch of kids. So you got to be really safe. If you're not being safe, might find yourself in trouble. But just keep that in mind. It is okay to trap moles. All right, so now we're going to get into how we catch these little critters. These are all their little deep runways, surface runs. And as you see the little arrows there, can I use that pointer?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Okay. All right. Right here is your main runways right here. This is where you want to find your runways and stay with the on their main runs. And right here, as they go in the sidewalk here, you want to set the trap just before they go underneath your driveway or sidewalk. And
yeah, sometimes it.
Right. So when you get a mole in your yard, and one of my coworkers down there, he swears he can catch it going up these hills here, but I don't really like to set a trap in these hills here. I always like to try to find where their runway is, because they're cleaning the tunnels out all the time. So if you get that trap set right there between the hills, and if you sit on the hill, what happens is these moles come in here and clean out the tunnel. They're pushing straight up. So when you do that, they're pushing your trap straight up out of the hole. So sometimes you get lucky, but a lot of times you get frustrated because they set off your trap. That's one reason, because they just push it straight up. So always trying to find your runway. And they like to go down about 2 feet. This is their nesting area, way down here in the bottom. And that's when they have their young. They have their young about March. And here's another way here. Find your, take a probe, the steel rod, go down and find your main run, and set your trap on the main run there.
How does that feel? When you're probing, what are you looking for?
Well, when you push down the hard surface, all of a sudden when it gives away a little bit, it'll say, okay, you'll see it will give there 2 or 3 inches. When you push down, all of a sudden it'll go through. You'll feel a little release. Okay, there's your tunnel. You definitely feel it. And a lot of times I don't use a probe. I just go on your last 2 hills. You go back on your last 2 hills, and I find the tunnel. And that's where I normally get mine, is on the last two hills, especially when they're first active. It's so hard to do that when they're on their when they're there all the time. I've had phone calls to catch moles, and I got lucky, and I find their main tunnel, and I set the trap, and then after done, I put the trap right back in that main tunnel. As long as I'm catching them in that main tunnel, they'll be successful, because they always have a main one. They're always fine. They feed off of. So keep that in mind. If you find a really nice tunnel, keep using that tunnel, and that's their main run. they get down between 6 to 18 inches. And, I do pretty well on those. This is the surface runs that I don't like, right to the top of your surface, and they just turn up your turf, and that's when they do the most damage. That's pretty hard to catch them at that point. They're just be right underneath your sod. It's really frustrating, but again, it's finding their main run. That's where you're going to catch them. Okay, now we're setting these traps. Now this trap right here, I recommend not using. It's got this like 6 spikes on it, and when you set it over the hill there, when it goes off, spikes hit the ground and it comes up. Your whole mole trap comes up the ground, and it's pretty dangerous. I mean, it's a wicked trap. I recommend not using it. That's what it looks like. I haven't seen anything on the market like that anymore. Oh, here we go. This is the newest one that came out. I brought one here on Gary's desk right now. This is the newest one. It's out on the market right now, and they're catching them like hotcakes. And this is a gopher hawk, and it works. And every time I go into Watkins Tractor, in fact, I was there today. I picked up one here. I got on Gary's desk. I didn't know I had a picture or not. But right up to your right there, that is your probe to find your tunnel. And then you set your other one right down on the ground. It shows you pretty well on the box how to set them. And, that's the newest one on the market. For years, I was wondering if they're going to come out with something different between a scissor trap. I still like the scissor trap. They're the best one out there for me. I know this is what the probe, what it looks like. Again, there's a little loop down there at the bottom of the hole there. You got to make sure that loop is where the mole's going to go through. All right, we're going to talk a little more about scissor traps. This is my favorite, and they're not expensive. Your gopher hawk is about $40. You still get a good mole trap for $14. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to set them. I'm going to not go any further on that. And can't remember if this goes back to I think it does go a little further how to set a trap.
I'm not sure whether it does or not.
Anyway, we'll talk a little more about that later. But these little critters, they take the moles get a lot of blame for these guys. These guys are called voles. There's 3 different colors, and they run in a group, like a family. They like to live in molehills. They love to be in your flower beds and chew on your flower bulbs. Moles do not eat bulbs. They just like to go down through your garden, your carrot rows, your corn rows, dig tunnels down through there, and that just cuts off the water source. But they do not eat on the stalks. Only damage they do is take the water away from your plant. But these little critters here, they're the ones that eats all the bulbs and stuff. And I found out that rat pellets are the best way to get rid of those things. But you got to be careful how you put them out because you've got cats. Dogs. This is the difference between a mole and a vole. A vole is about 2 inches long. A mole is 4 to 6.
We don't have any human traps.
We'll take it back.
Yeah. So we're going to go back. Which slide would you like?
Right there.
Okay.
When you set these traps, I thought we had 2 or 3 other trap pictures. We don't. But main thing is you got to find your tunnel and making sure the trap is set parallel over your tunnel. And what I like to do is dig it down, put a little bit of dirt right underneath the little lever right here. And put a little dirt in there. So when the moles, they push up on this, and that's when it goes off. And I have a little competition down at work down there, and he broke my record. The little guy, he kind of cheated a little bit. I guess something new I learned this year. When I catch my mole, I put it back in the hole. That usually stops from another one come in for a while. And he takes it and he gets rid of it. And another mole comes right in real quick like. So he's catching them. So I usually get about 28 a year, and I think he's on 30 right now, I think. So, but I told him that it's not fair. You got to put your mole back in the ground. So there's a theory right there. You can put your mole in the ground, and that theory is that'll get rid of them for a little while, but eventually they'll come back in. And just a little bit of background on moles. I've heard bubble gum, I've heard glass, I've heard juicy fruit, and they got these new stuff on the market. It's called worms that you can buy at the store. You can put those down in there, but there's chemicals in those, and they only last for like a week, maybe 2 weeks. Then the rain washes the chemicals off, then your mole's back. So it could work, but I have not seen it actually kill moles. I've heard stories it has, but with a trap, you've got the critter. With a mohawk and with a scissor trap, you got the critter and you got it out of your yard.
What about sonic devices?
Sonic devices do not work. I do landscaping too, so I work on a golf course, and I've seen those things beep and a mole goes right alongside of them. So they don't work good. I've heard put water out there around your yard. That don't work either. And if you want to get rid of a mole, the best way to do that is set a scissor trap and a mohawk. I've been hearing a lot about this last year. It's a new device that came out, and we had a little discussion at Watkins Tractor today. Watkins Tractor, if you guys know where that's at on South Pacific, they're the best place to buy a mole trap for the cost. They're the cheapest place I've seen so far. And usually we do a live presentation, but the traps on these mole traps, you got to make sure the spring is really good, because you get one, it's got to be squeeze it really soft with your hand. It's time to get rid of that, because the spring is all gone out of that trap. You want to make sure you get a really good trap as the spring is still really hard on it to catch it. So that's really important. And as far as cleaning it, I usually don't spray mine down. I just make sure just hold it off when I'm done, and just make sure we get a lot of rust and hang up on the wall. And the main thing is mark your traps. Let's just be safe. We don't want no kids getting them down in this hole. So it's a good way to locate your trap if you put a bucket over it. I've seen at the golf course, I have guys set them down there. My mole traps are gone. They don't know where they put them. So make sure you mark them. So, and let's see here. We have a little video.
Okay.
Show that video.
Yeah, let me find this. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
There he is. He's not very big. They got lots of teeth. We're gonna turn him loose, and I'll show you how fast he can go. There he goes. Yeah, it's gonna dig a hole in the ground. It's gonna be gone. Oh, I can't get a hold of him. They're pretty strong. can't pull him out. He got some claws. Ooh. There's a good one in here. See how fast they go on the ground? Oh my gosh. That's when he bit me right through the blow.
Yeah.
Voice here. Let's see if you're on the road so fast. On the road.
That was the thing that surprised me, how fast they travel.
They can go pretty good.
Yeah, people think moles are slow, but they're not slow.
You got to enter into the race.
Yeah, in the turtle race. Who wasn't again?